Welcome to the Absite Smackdown podcast. We'll talk clinical scenarios, interesting Absite facts, and interesting general surgery knowledge. Now, let's get to it.
Hi, and welcome back to the Absite Smackdown podcast. Today, Jessica Rizzo is back with us, and today's topic is all about you have a whole year to study and practice for the Absite. Jessica, how are you doing today?
I'm great. How are you, Dr. David?
Hey, I'm doing great. I'm settled in. I've got my cup of water here. I am ready to go for this podcast. And I think it's really timely for this one that you guys selected the topic for. So where do we go with it?
Okay, well, you have a whole year. So, the last couple months, we've just been focused on your cramming, you're getting ready, the test is coming. Well, the test came, it's over, and now we have a year. So rather than focusing on all the last minute stuff that we're cramming in there, you and the water. I always thought that was coffee. So thanks for giving us a shout out on what you're actually drinking for all of us wondering, because I know I was. Yeah. Sorry, off topic. Anyway, so now you have a whole year. And so what can we do in that year, setting up a plan and going about that plan so that we can feel ready when this time rolls around next year? Instead of just shoving it all in. How can we do it? So what are your thoughts?
Well, the previous podcast episode was, hey, you took the test, you don't feel great about it. So whether you do or don't feel great about what just happened, I think it's important to give yourself a little break now. Just take like a week where you're not thinking about the Absite. Read what you like or what you have to or what is required by your residency, but probably no Absite prep for just a little bit. That's my 2 cents. I would start with that, and then I'd quickly move into the longer term stuff associated with your success. Take a minute to look at the links that we've set up about, the available data on what's associated with performance. Doing a lot of questions is associated with improved performance over not doing a lot of questions. Questions alone don't get you there. Don't get me wrong. You have to actually kind of know the stuff, not just the questions. But that's important. Timing, whether you schedule a vacation in that month of the Absite, depending on how important it is for you to have a vacation without studying versus one with studying. Take some time to read about the things associated with performance. It's just kind of easy and interesting. And my 2 cents is I'd start with that if you haven't already. That's a good place to start off.
The Absite Smackdown podcast. Visit the Smackdown at absitesmackdown.com.
Okay, so we were talking about, you just now mentioned it, the questions are super helpful, but if you don't know the answers to the questions, you can do questions all day. But if you don't know the answers, it's not going to help you. So if you do something where, whether it's our book or whatever you're using to study, if you break it down, you have a whole year. So you could take the book, break it down by section. After each section, do the questions and review. But if you do that, as you get towards the end, how are you going to remember all the stuff from the beginning? And we were talking about that earlier, about how people forget or remember. And so can you go over that just a little bit? Because I think it's super helpful.
Yeah, sure. There's something called the forgetting curve. That's its nickname. But that's the idea of intermittent reinforcement. The idea for this surgical education thing is you're learning it for life. This is going to be for your practice, not really just the Absite. So it's important to learn something and then intermittently reinforce it. And to that end, I think integrating your study into your daily life is key. Having things be reinforced intermittently is key. And we offer a couple ways to do that with the book, the way you all have set it up. And there are other ways to do it too. Don't get me wrong. The video lectures, you can listen to in the car. Same with the podcast. You're not going to watch a video lecture in the car, I hope, but you can listen to it. And the audio lectures that are free, put out as podcasts, those reviews are useful. So like you said, a good study plan, I think, will leave time at the end for review, maybe a month or two at the end. And then the rest of the time, break up Absite study, either via, chapter in the Absite Smackdown book or another book or whatever, The SCORE curriculum is fantastic too. You're probably going to be doing that as part of your residency, but remember, SCORE is set up to go over a full residency, usually about 5 years. But aligning it with SCORE can be good. And having it go by section, and then in each section, doing questions as you go, aligned with that section, looking at the review lectures associated with that section can be super useful. And using things like the Instagram account that is free content, putting in a little bit of other fun things like the coloring book, which is just to sort of relax. You're not going to learn that many new facts, but you're relaxing. You'll pick up a couple facts. The crossword puzzle book can be fun. It doesn't have to just be the products that you all have put out, but just designing it in a way that you're going by topic, spreading it over time, doing questions, and intermittently reviewing with some time to review again at the end. I think that's the key. That leverages the forgetting curve, the intermittent reinforcement curve, the best.
And this isn't a shameless plug, even though we are talking about some of the things that we do. But just for example, so you talked about the Instagram account. We do a daily Absite fact every single day, except for on Sundays. On Sundays, we do Absite Anywhere, where we get pictures from people, what they're out doing. And it kind of shows that, you're grinding. But even on the day when you are supposed to kind of relax or decompress, you can still take the books, take your studying, take anything with you so that you stay focused, but multitask, get the relaxation in. And so that's why I love Absite Anywhere on Sunday study, because we get all the interesting pictures and it kind of reminds you almost like take time for yourself too, but still stay on task with what you're supposed to do. And so I personally just love that. I'm not trying to shamelessly plug. I think that's just a nice thing that we do. So.
Well, of course, if we didn't like what we created, we wouldn't be here. And we created it to solve a problem. You guys were nice enough to, help me build it out to solve the problems that I had as a resident. And that was fantastic. And one of those things is, as we become professionals in surgery, how do we work studying into our daily lives? Things are going to change. Every textbook, this is another classic stat, every textbook is about 4 years out of date by the time it's published, because that's how long it takes to percolate and become a textbook. So things are going to change in surgery. Things like the robot have come about since I've trained, all these different things. And if you're going to keep up to date on the, new literature that's important or whatever, you have to have a way to integrate that. So one of the big questions to solve that surgery residency helps you solve is, how do you study for the Absite with limited time in a way that's meaningful and not just cramming? And one of the ways to do that is, one of these things, these products, whether it's ours or someone else's, but doing it over time and doing it in a convenient way. You can do a review course. Some people can travel for one. Some places have a virtual one once a year. One of the nice features of Absite Smackdown is you can do it paced over time and leverage the forgetting curve better. We're going to obviously have a new edition coming out fairly soon with new videos that are updated. It's been great to do, tiring, but really good to do. And I think they've improved a lot on the first version of the video course. And I think that'll help people even better to use everything and learn over time and, do it on the drive to work, like you always say, which can be really helpful. So I'm looking forward to that. But of course, if we didn't like what we made, we wouldn't be here. So I get what you're saying. It's not a shameless plug. There are plenty of products out there. And of course, SCORE is fantastic too. None of this is meant to replace the SCORE curriculum. So I don't think we can say that, often enough.
The Absite Smackdown podcast is based on the best-selling review book, Absite Smackdown, the only Absite review with an entire video review course included. Visit absitesmackdown.com and pick it up today.
Yeah, I just think, though, with the way we utilize social media, it, like you said, textbooks can take 4 years, but when we're constantly posting, you're looking outside, you're doing a new edition. I think that what we've talked about at Goals is to do a new edition almost every year. So obviously we're not 4 years behind if that's happening. But, I follow Da Vinci on Instagram. I love seeing the robots and all the interesting things. And I think that residents definitely have kind of one up than you had when you were a resident on how they learn and take in information and not getting behind, because there is so many outlets now that bring studying, bring the information to them, and they have access to that. Like, and not just with ours. I know we say that all the time, but you can listen to it anywhere, do anything. And like, you didn't have that. And so,
Yeah. Isn't that the whole point, right? Try to leave it one better than what you had. And what's really cool? I don't know if you've heard this before, but it turns out that there is more information made now every year. In fact, every couple months, there's more new information now in a couple months or a year than there was in the entire history of the world before now. That's a crazy fact. Between big data, the ability to cull data, geographic data from our phones, geolocation data, there is more data and information now created I think it's down to like 2 months now, than there was in the entire history of civilization before now. We're almost drowning in it. They say data is the new oil is a classic statement because data is so valuable now. And they say the data that we give to Google is worth at least $600-700. Our patient health information as patients is worth about $60 a record, because the implants we may have or the medications we're on don't change quickly. So our health data is very valuable. Similarly, these new ways to use data, like the platform developed for Absite Smackdown that lets you study anytime, is super valuable, because one of the things we have to teach that we don't teach much is how to process so much more data and evaluate what we are going to accept in a critical way, where that is a fairly new problem. Or let's say not a new problem, but a more immediate problem than ever existed before now. Right. Just unbelievable to me. It's just unbelievable when I think about that.
Right. Because there was a period of time where learning, it was all very set in stone. Like the same books were used, the same methods were taught for a very long time. And now just within the last couple of years, so much new information, so much new things to learn. It's a completely different world. And so going back to the entire topic of this, you have a year from now to get ready and get prepped. Again, it's really important to, realize how you learn, because there's all different types of ways how people learn and take information, creating the study plan, making sure that you have the right thing to get the information, whether it's our book or the score, anything that you use, that you're receiving it, that you're getting it, using social media, and like making that plan. You have a year from now, what can we do? What order? How do I learn what works best for me?
Yeah. And yeah, you're right. I got us pretty far afield, but I appreciate you bringing it back. You have a whole year. And in that year, you can really build a study plan around things like the forgetting curve. We know how it works. We know how we forget stuff. We know, forgetting in some ways is useful. You would just never be able to make a decision if you had everything buzzing around in your head. It would be analysis paralysis or information paralysis. So forgetting can be a blessing. But in terms of the stuff you need to be a good surgeon and the stuff you need to do well in the Absite, you can design a plan now around the forgetting curve. You can integrate into your daily, doing what you do. Between the Instagram account, we have the LinkedIn account, we have the Facebook account, we have this podcast. You can leverage all those things and take the opportunity to design a good plan up front. There's a famous line that a good plan today, well executed, is more valuable than a perfect plan tomorrow. So don't wait 4 months to kind of decide, well, the Absite, I guess it's coming around again. Just take the time now, make a reasonable plan. And now that if you didn't before, all about the forgetting curve and the studies that say doing questions is useful, and technologies like the Absite Smackdown review course. Now you know about them. So you can integrate them together and have a good plan today that you can start to execute that will get you a lot further than just kind of sitting around and waiting until you remember and say, oh yeah, Absite's coming up in a couple months. I better do something.
Right, exactly. And you said I bring it back around, but I'm about to distract us all because I don't know if anybody else notices, but Dr. David wears a t-shirt under his coat all the time. And I keep seeing an emblem looking out at me right now. And just for most of you guys aren't going to know, I'm a Green Bay fan.
Oh,
I'm going to say that.
Sorry.
And you want to show us that shirt right now?
Well, first off, I want to say I don't wear a t-shirt all the time at work. I do it.
No.
I do it for the podcast. I don't usually wear it all the time at work, but as a proud Tampa Bay fan, I am a Tampa Bay Buccaneers fan. I watched Jameis Winston for years and the Bucs and before him. And so I had mixed feelings when Tom Brady came to town because I thought, well, this experiment's been tried. Older quarterbacks toward the end of their career, Joe Montana and your Brett Favre, they've gone to these places and it hasn't been the same. Hey, but the year turned out pretty good for the Bucs. So it's a good year to be a Bucs fan. And it's just COVID was tough, but playing the Super Bowl in your hometown, just a fantastic year. Can't complain, can't complain. So feel bad for you that you're a Green Bay fan. Good luck. Good luck next year.
That was rough. It was a rough game. So, yeah, your team gets to go Super Bowl. Lucky you. I don't know. I feel like we need to make this a thing. People don't get to see that you always have a good T-shirt. Not this week. I'm not going to say a good T-shirt this week. But you have a great T-shirt, and I never pointed out, and that's a failing on my part. I'm going to, when you were.
Yeah, I don't. It's like my secret. It's like my secret in the podcast. My podcast garb is like you said, it's a white coat and a T-shirt of some kind that might be ironic. I'll tell you some of them. It's been Cobra Kai. It's there are two Cobra Kai T-shirts. There are two Tampa Bay T-shirts that it's been. There's one that says "United We Stand 6 feet apart" in honor of COVID. They're always kind of funny. They just I do it. It's kind of like my secret on the podcast. But now you've outed me. So it is what it is, but I'm going to keep doing it. So anyway, yeah.
Awesome. All right. Well, Dr. David, thanks again for being here today. And, again, guys, it's a year. You have a year. Make a plan. It doesn't have to be perfect. Recognize how you study, how you learn, find your information. Again, that forgetting curve, utilize it. And any final words from you, Dr. David?
No, it's a time of excitement because no matter how you just did on the Absite, you have a big opportunity in front of you to prep for the next year. You can pick your materials. There are lots of good options out there. We look to revise and improve ours every year across the board, whether that's the coloring book to just kind of take a little anxiety out of it and relax, or the crossword puzzle book, or the main Absite Smackdown book. I appreciate you guys letting me kind of constantly improve that every year based on feedback. So regardless of what you use something, make a plan. And hopefully some of the info in this podcast, like the forgetting curve, will help you build that plan.
Right. All right, guys, thanks for tuning in. And again, remember, #Absite Smackdown.
Thanks for listening to the Absite Smackdown podcast. Visit us at absitesmackdown.com for more great Absite facts.